Hey Jani, how are you today?
Hello, Andre. Yeah, I'm good. I hope you are good as well.
Yeah, I'm good. So today we're doing a behavioral mock interview, meta style. We'll go through few common questions and I share detailed feedback in the end. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, let's try that.
Okay, sounds good. Let's start right away. The first question is a classic. Tell me about yourself and your journey in machine learning.
So I'm Jani, and I started my career as a software engineer. It was like 11 years ago, and then I quickly switched to machine learning, which happened 3 years after I started my career, because I found machine learning as more interesting area to be in. So I worked in some startups that nobody remembers the name. And after that, I joined Meta, I think 5 years ago as machine learning engineer. After that, I joined pre-IPO startup blockchain.com. It's a crypto wallet company, one of the biggest, one of the oldest in the world. And after that, so I worked there as machine learning lead, like in machine learning and data engineering. I worked there for a couple of years, and then I joined my current company, British Petroleum, 1 year and a half ago as a staff data scientist.
Sounds awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's start with the first question. Tell me about the most technically challenging project that you've led from start to finish.
Yeah, I think I will tell about the project that I did at my previous company, blockchain.com. So the project was to build machine learning model to predict fraudulent transactions for our bank payments. So when I joined the team, we just compiled the team of data scientists and data engineers and data analysts to tackle fraud. And our fraud rates were really high. So fraud rate is the ratio between fraudulent transactions and all transactions, and our ratio. So we had from our vendors, from MasterCard, from Visa, from ACH bank partner that we had a certain threshold that this fraudulent transactions ratio should be under, and we had it above that for areas that I needed to improve. And so I made the proposal. So after I onboarded, I made the proposal to switch our existing vendor provided machine learning model to that we used to assess the transactions to build our in-house model. My proposal was that we can build the model better, we can maintain it better, and we will have more control of how to use it. And so after we built that and after we roll it out, we managed to decrease our fraud rates, and we managed to exit the Visa fraud monitoring program. And yes, and our bank partners also were happy that we decreased our fraud rates for them as well.
So let's come back a little, and I have a question about like the moment when you made your proposal to start this project, how actually you did that, how you persuaded product managers to like believe in you that you will actually create the system from scratch that never existed in the company before, and did you have any presentation or a roadmap?
Yeah, it's actually a good question, because in our company we didn't have the infrastructure to roll out the model too. So we didn't have any MLOps, and we didn't have any feature store. So and the model that we needed to have was a real-time model. So it needed to send the reply in real time, and yeah, we needed to build the infrastructure for that. So it was a challenge. How I made the proposal, I think I joined the company in April, and I made my proposal, I think, in the middle of summer, after I onboarded properly and understood what we had. And I think I started with evaluating the existing model, because we used to use the model, but nobody evaluated the actual performance of the model in the company for several reasons, because our data science department was small before I joined, and so we didn't have dedicated data scientists, like dedicated machine learning people to work with that. We didn't have so the startup itself was smaller before they started grow, like once they hire me. So I mean, we didn't have like just people to look after it, and So I evaluated the performance of that model, and I saw that the area under the curve is a specific metric to measure the classification models. In machine learning, it wasn't that great. It was like 65%, which is not terrible, but it's not. You can fairly say that it's not the greatest model that can predict something. So I mean, from just looking at that metric, I assumed that the model. I mean, also we knew that model from our historical usage of the model. That model had some problems. So I kind of from that I started research. So I spent 1 or 2 weeks evaluating what we can build. I showed that model that we can build with our data would be better. So my model was like having 85 or 89% the same metric, area under the curve, which was like almost 25%, 20% better. So I spoke about that with my product manager. Obviously, they didn't care about this area under the curve metrics because it doesn't tell anything to business people. So then we switched to the real number of fraudulent transactions that we would catch if we had our model and that we were not catching with the current model. So that was that. And then also I made this proposal request to my manager, which was VP of data at that time. And also I created this machine learning design document where I described our existing solution, what we have, and the new solution that I'm proposing, how more transactions we would be able to catch, and how more money we would be able to earn. So I didn't have any formal presentation or formal meeting where I persuaded I was selling this to my stakeholders, but I had periodic one-on-ones with my product manager, where we, apart from the model, we also were describing or discussing our other initiatives. And I also had my design document where everyone looked at and had some feedback.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for sharing that. So I have a question, what happened after the project started? Tell me about the team and teamwork. So obviously you were the lead engineer on the project, how you were actually coordinating the work, how many engineers were involved?
So not that many, to be honest. It was me who were involved in the project, and I had one data engineer that worked on building the features for us, offline features, and I had junior machine learning engineer, who worked with me and helped me with deploying the model, preparing the code for actual deployment part. So we had 3 people working on that. If we do not take into account we had a sister team that were building a machine learning framework of MLOps for us. We were first adopters of their framework. If we go a bit in the future, we were the only ones who were using their framework. But anyway, so we had this sister team that building the deployment framework for us, MLOps framework, and they had 4 people there. But I wasn't that much involved in this part, because we were just the users of the framework.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. So I have a question about this sister team. So obviously you were not directly managing those people. You were not working closely with them, as I assume. How do you influence them to do something valuable for your project? Because obviously they're probably working on their projects as well at the same time. So how do you fight for their time? How do you?
So that was a bit of a challenge, because they had their own backlog that they wanted to develop different features for, and at that time they were also working on migrating our existing data lake to Lakehouse. My data engineer was working closely with them, so it wasn't me who was working closely with them, but my data engineer. And if they had some, for example, they didn't have time to work on some feature that we needed, my data engineer from my team kind of helped their team to deliver this feature for them that we required. So basically, if we needed some feature and they didn't have time for that, we just implemented that feature ourselves. They didn't mind. So, I mean, some teams, they can be very restrictive in terms of if you can push the code into their area, but that team, they were gladly not like that. So they didn't mind for us to put our code there. And we had our quorum of data teams together, where we coordinated together our shared backlog. So because anyway, even if you are different teams, we still need to deliver for the business. So we kind of negotiated the main things, at least, that should be in a quarter, should be delivered in this half. And my model deployment wasn't put into their backlog like first thing when I proposed that, but in the next quarter after I made the proposal, they put it in the backlog and we worked on it.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Okay, last question about on this story. I want to talk about the outcome. So you mentioned that you had this metric called fraudulent rate, and you were trying to lower that metric. Yeah. So were there any other metrics or ways to actually measure the success of a project?
Yeah. So I mean, for the CEO of the company, the main concern was that we should be out of this fraud monitoring program from our bank partner, which we happily did. So that was the main thing. And how the bank partner and our vendors like Visa and MasterCard, how they evaluated our performance was the main metric was this one, the ratio of fraudulent transactions. The one metric that we did care about, which wasn't the concern of our partners, but we cared about that, was approval rate, because we wanted to have number of approved transactions still quite high, because we didn't want to create the troubles for our users where you have like lots of rejections for your transactions. And also, I mean, if you fight fraud and like reject everything, obviously you'll have zero fraud, but you'll not have any transactions, right? So yeah, so we had this quadrilateral metric that we cared about for approval rate, but the main metric was fraudulent ratio.
Thanks for sharing that. Okay, let's switch gears. Next question is, describe a time you defined the roadmap or some sort of long-term vision for a team or across multiple teams.
Example could be something at BP, that when I joined BP, so my team where I worked with, it was the data team that supported our business Castrol company. It's like arm of BP. We were providers of all data related questions, all data related requests, and machine learning as well for Castrol. And when I joined the team was heavily third-party workers, not like full-time employees of BP. Historically, team like was operating under big influence of business, so nobody like concerned about that much about like addressing tech debt, doing things like from engineering perspective, which is right, but the main criteria was just to make business happy. And how to make business happy is just to deliver everything fast and dirty, right? And because nobody will care about your code base, nobody will care about maintenance of your work, because that is your problem. And because we had like this short-term contractors that worked on the specific projects, I mean, it's not, I don't blame anyone, but it's just because you know that you're working short-term, you'll deliver your project and then will be working in another company. Obviously, you'll try to deliver as fast as you can, because you save money for the business as well, because business doesn't pay more for you because you don't address certain technical debts. So you deliver faster for the business, which is better for the business from that perspective. And also, I mean, it's not your problem because you wouldn't work on that project after some time. So yeah, after I joined the team, I identified these issues, and I made the proposal that we need to have like first of all, can't maintain the big team without having tech leads in each squad, because we had like team of like almost 100 people, and everyone was managed by like business delivery leads. So we had like 6 squads. Everyone was managed by business delivery, like project manager. So we didn't have like tech leads with a squad, that people that were like concerned about technical debt and everything, like better engineering initiatives. And we also needed to hire more like full-time employees. But that was so my proposal was that we need to address these issues, and we need to do certain steps to achieve a better result, which was like hire more like full-time employees, assign like technical leads in each squad and train them, support them to like be vocal about like engineering problems, about engineering vision of our solutions, and start like compiling the backlog for better engineering initiatives that we can do. And yeah, so that was a big vision that I proposed. I didn't do it like from the beginning. I did it like after 5 or 6 months. I was in a company, and we started acting on that. So we hired like 20, I think, full-time employees at that time. And we have tech leads in each squad. We also assembled like specific team within our business department that is called now asset management team, and that team is mainly focused on addressing our infrastructure, data infrastructure, and like code related initiatives. So they're not working on business, they're just supporting like improving our existing infrastructure. So I mean, this team we just set up like 2 months ago, which, so it was like a big thing for me, because I started doing that like 1 year ago. We are still have a way to go, but we are working there. We did code optimization from our cloud. We reduced our cloud costs, and now significantly, like 500,000 per year. And yeah, so we are doing a lot of good things now. And yeah, that was, I think, my story.
That sounds like a huge project, actually. Thank you for sharing that. So my question is, how do you actually manage this process? Who were like really managing it? Were you doing it like alone yourself on a high level, or were there some other people who were involved?
That's actually a good question, because our hierarchy of management at the company is a bit. So first of all, we had several reorgs, 2 reorgs, I think, at that time, and also my managers changed. So so we didn't have like clear hierarchy of who is managing what. First, when I joined, we just had these 6 squads, and I was some like person that's floating around in between them. It wasn't my direct reports, so I couldn't say to people like, we're doing that, we should be doing that. So I kind of needed to more like persuade people. So it was like like soft power. So I just was going around like saying to people, we need to do that. I think if we had a better infrastructure, we wouldn't have that problem. And I was like mentioning that like to my managers as well. And we had 2 different management chains, one from business, one from technology, which also like was a challenge, because so we had like kind of 2 report chains for our team. So yeah, it wasn't like I'm directly manage the people and directly like ask people to do certain changes, but it was like speaking with my manager, like convincing them, speaking with these people, convincing them, and then slowly changing things.
Yeah, that sounds really impressive, because you basically managed to transition the department and introduce tech leads and technical tasks without being a manager of those people, by just using soft power and persuasion. Interesting. Let's move on. I actually want to ask you about conflicts. Yep, this is one of my favorite ones. Please tell me about a time you faced a significant conflict or a disagreement with another tech lead, maybe an engineer or product manager.
I think I will tell about my situation that I had at my previous company, blockchain.com. When I joined the company, in my first several meetings, I had my product manager, who was my partner, was my peer, and then I had the manager of that product manager, who was like senior product manager, who was also participating in our meetings and suggesting some initiatives that we should be doing. And as I said, our main concern was like addressing this fraudulent transactions ratio, and we had like certain problems there that we needed to fix. And this senior product manager, they proposed that instead of directly like trying to find certain rules or building the model that I described, we should be investing our time in building the platform where like people without technical expertise, without knowledge of SQL, because for that particular tasks, you need to know SQL. So without knowing SQL, they can go and like with drag and drop, create certain rules that backwards that would do the some kind of a back test on our existing like transactions, and would tell us that what of these transactions, what ratio of the transactions we would have for fraudulent transactions, and how many of fraudulent transactions we would catch with that rule, and how many good transactions we would block with that rule. So they proposed that we built this platform with UI and not non-technical people. First of all, product manager, I believe, they can go and like with drag and drop create rules and play around to propose certain rules for us that we can implement with a backend engineers, with like our sister team of backend engineers, and put it in production, and like with that fight fraud. So it was the same. The goal was the same, to fight fraud, but not address it directly, but through building that platform. And my conflict was that which I tried to explain, is that we didn't have like enormous team. We had like 5 people in the team. Everyone was having like immediate task that was affecting the fraud rate immediately. So I had data analysts that worked with our financial team that tried to find these rules like already. So I had a person who already was dedicated for that the time was already dedicated for that, to find these certain rules that will be put in production. So without like, so we had a technical person who was working on that, first of all, and also we didn't have capacity to like invest into building that platform, because it would be like 3 months of work for like 3 or 4 people at least, and we had immediate problems with the fraud. So yeah, that was my conflict. I tried to explain that, and then also what I proposed as an interim solution is that if they have any ideas about potential rules that could be created, they could explain to us, like, I mean, in just English, what rules they want us to create, and then we will just investigate that on their behalf with our data analysts. So at first they didn't like that because it was kind of, I think, not the thing that they used to have, because I mean, I was a new joiner. We were like new build team, and he was a senior product manager who was handling all of that before we kind of existed in the company. So that was, I think, the main reason why they had problems with me not accepting the priority. But then I think we negotiated and we came up. So we agreed that we wouldn't build the platform, but if any rules they can propose, we will gladly like investigate them and put them in production.
Okay, sounds good. So let's now focus on this part that, so you said that we negotiated. So I want to hear more about how it actually happened. So first of all, who initiated this? Was it a meeting or was it an email discussion?
I mean, we had a meeting where, I mean, first, how it started, right? So we had a meeting with our product managers where the senior product manager proposed that we should be doing that. So I was first expecting my direct peer product managers to say that we don't have capacity for that. After they didn't do that, I kind of started speaking and saying that my team, we do not have any people who could be dedicated for that, and we don't have time for that. Basically, we have our immediate fires to handle. Then I mean, that meeting ended on that note, and then after that, async, not with a broader forum, but just one-on-one in our DM as well. I create one-on-one with this person. I explained that, I mean, these things that I said, that if they have any proposal, we are happy to take that into investigation, but building the platform itself will be huge initiative. And I'm not saying it's completely worthless, but at that time we just don't have capacity for that. So I mean, that was the idea. I mean, we didn't build the platform anyway, but the way I described that, it was a bit nice. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Let's move on. Please tell me about a time a project didn't go as planned. So maybe there was some failure or some problem, and how you've overcome it.
So we had a project at BP where we needed to predict demand forecasting for our convenience stores. And when I joined the team, I mean, so I have my team, this team with Castrol. It was like a spare project, separate project that was happening in parallel, that I was asked to be involved. So I jumped in when I realized that the team wasn't progressing very well. They were working on this project for 4 months when I joined, and everything that was done was just research. So they just did like lots of EDAs, like describing the data, describing the data set, the problem, etc., but nothing was built. And also the approach that they had for tackling the problem, the machine learning model that they were building wasn't suited for the whole problem, because the problem was that we need to predict the demand for our food products, the products that we have at convenience stores. We had like 300 convenience stores in Australia. Each of convenience store, they have like up to several thousand different products in them. But the approach that the team was following at that time was to build specific machine learning model per like store and SKU per product. So which was, as you can imagine, it's like number of machine learning models that they needed to build at the end was like 300 multiplied by several thousand, which would be like millions, and it wasn't scalable. So yeah, so several problems, as I said, like lots of time was invested in like investigation of data, and the model itself wasn't scalable. Once I joined the team, I justified all of that. I spoke about that with our business, and also we didn't have another problem. We didn't have product manager dedicated for that project as well. So so the main problem was that was the main problems. Once I joined, and then I described the situation. I created a document where I described all the situation. And VP is a big organization, so to make any change, you need to have like several phases of approvals. And I asked that we need to have like product manager dedicated for us. So we need to turn things around. And for that, we need because we had only 2 data scientists assigned for the project that were doing this investigation and research, but none of them worked on deployment of machine learning model. None of them worked on like building the features for the machine learning model. So they didn't have that experience at all. So I've asked for additional resources, that we need like data engineer, we need like engineer who would work on like productionize the model, and we need a product manager. So I got approval for all of that. So we kind of staffed the team with additional people. And then I think after 3 months, we made the pilot run for the model. So we rolled it out for like 10 different sites and tested it out. And obviously, we had some challenges there as well, like that were not connected to this. But at least we rolled it out, and the project is still ongoing now, as far as I know. Because we had also, I was like just spare involvement from me, as I said. So we had like dedicated staff data scientists for that project now. So they are working with on that project like fully at the moment, as far as I know, and they are like progressing. But at least we turned things around, and we delivered some progress. We delivered something shortly. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm actually interested in the thing that you mentioned in the end, that you had some like issues with that model. And I'm asking because that was the problem that happened after you joined. So it's sort of like you felt the responsibility, and then you helped the team somehow to solve this problem. So that's why I want to hear more about this particular case.
So what we had, so after we rolled out our pilot run, what we identified is that our data quality that we assumed it was, we knew that our data quality is not very good, but we assumed it would be good enough. But once we started our pilot run, at that specific number of food products that we picked and the sites that we picked, that was the main thing, because our data quality overall was like average, but for specific sites that we rolled it out, it was very bad. Like for some of the sites, site per SKU combination, we didn't have data at all. Like so, if you don't have any data, obviously you cannot predict anything. So that was the problem that we identified, and it was our mistake that we didn't spot it before our pilot run. We only identified that during pilot run. In our defense, we can say that business changed the sites without like taking into account our suggestions, because we suggested one white sites, one set of sites, they picked another one. And for that specific sites per SKU, we didn't have like data, and we needed to change our model. So it, at least if we don't have any data, it still produces some reasonable result based on this same product sales in different stores, not in this store, right? So and that was the thing that we needed to change. So we were changing that during our pilot run and negotiating with the business, explaining why we have such bad predictions on the fly. So that was the problem, and the business obviously wasn't happy that we didn't spot it before. But we kind of we tried to explain that our suggested sites were not picked, and we are working with the other sites that we didn't anticipate. And but still, it was our mistake. I mean, completely was on our data science team that we didn't take into account that, and we didn't build our solution robust enough that we can still predict something meaningful while we don't have any data.
So my question here is, was it like an urgent problem or not? Because we're talking about demand prediction for convenience stores, and you mentioned that the data was bad. So how does it affect like sales, or what was the problem? So was it urgent or not?
It was immediate problem because the way, I mean, the products that we rolled it out for was food products that they bake within a day. So how they used our predictions, they needed to know how many food products they need to bake. So how many like different, it's like how's it called, like frozen products that you bake within a day and then you sell.
Okay, interesting. So that sounds like an urgent problem. So I want to hear what you did, like your actions, like step by step, after the moment you heard that this thing is not working.
Obviously, once we figured out that we don't have, so we have this problem that we have like stores and SKUs, specific SKUs that we have very like out of predictions that not like aligned at all. And what I obviously did is like we built in 1 or 2 days, we rolled out the quick fix, which was just predicting the average of the sales. So if we don't have anything, in the meantime, while we were developing the better machine learning approach, we rolled out the like just quick average of last 7 days. So they have something to work with in the meantime. So we rolled it out, and then I think in a week or in 2 weeks, we like kind of came up with a better approach. So as I said, like take into account the sales in different stores.
Yep, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, let's move on to the next one. So I want to hear more about your mentorship experience. So tell me about a time you grew or mentored other engineers or researchers, maybe machine learning engineers. So how do you approach it generally?
I'm not sure I have general approach, because people tend to have different personal situations. I can tell about some examples. Like my first person that I mentored, I worked in a startup before Facebook. I worked in a startup as a machine learning engineer. I didn't have any reports. I was just machine learning engineer developing the solution for. It was like analyzing tweets and trying to predict stock movement based on stock tweets. There is a like social network stock tweets. And we tried to predict stock movement based on this tweet sentiment. So I was developing that solution. It was like very, very like out of touch, not affecting anything project that I was working with, and I liked it very much. But yeah, doesn't matter. So I worked there, and I had like junior engineer who wasn't machine learning engineer. He was I think a backend engineer working at that team, that expressed the desire to work with me in my team, like not my team, I just was alone, but to work with me and with my project. And I accepted that, even knowing that they don't have any machine learning experience. I was thinking that they can help me with like productionize the code, to put that model into production, and etc. etc. So once they joined, I was explaining to them what to do. Like, so I basically like explaining machine learning also like in parallel, because they didn't have any experience there. And I think once I also was teaching them what to do. I mean, how to engineer, how to tackle specific problems. Because I remember once, sometimes this person, once they struggled with something, they just give up and said like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to fix that. And I was like doing some kind of pair programming. I was opening the code together and like going through the code base and explaining, okay, I also don't know how to fix that. Let's try to do that together, right? So we have this problem. Let's try to figure out what causes this problem. Let's go over the code base. So I was just explaining how to like navigate through the different code base, and because we used some library that had some problems so we fixed the library in the meantime, and I was explaining that. Also, I was teaching them, coding standards that I found reasonable, and etc., etc. And also, only later I learned that person had serious problems in their previous team, and they didn't want to work at that team. They wanted to resign from the company, but they decided to try with me, and I kind of returned them back into like loving software engineering, etc., etc. And now this person works as senior software engineer at Facebook.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. Let's move on to our last question. Mm-hmm. So please tell me about something technical that you learned outside of your immediate work responsibilities.
So I can't say in my last couple of years, but before that, all my career, I think I was like doing some courses in parallel. Now I don't have maybe time for that. My last big course that I did was with machine learning. When I worked at Facebook, I bought like 1 year course that you have like participate 20 hours per week, I think, or something like that. So I was doing it for 6 months, and I finished that project, that course. It's called Hard ML, like hard machine learning. So by the name, you can assume that it was like a hard course, and it was a interesting course. I learned different areas of machine learning that I didn't have exposure with my experience, like recommendation systems. I never worked with recommendations. I learned that, and like uplift modeling when you need to predict the marketing campaign result. So different things that I learned there. And in machine learning, there are like different areas. So you cannot work on all of them, but still you should expect that at some point in your business you can interact with them. Like it happened to me with these fraudulent transactions, like with fraud data, right? So you need to know broad spectrum of applications of machine learning to be helpful for the business. So I always try to do that. And actually, I just realized I'm doing the machine learning system design lecture course, so I'm participating there at the moment. So it's happening on Saturdays and Sundays every weekend. We have lectures and some outside lecture work. So I think it's just you need to be, if you want to continue your career at software development and machine learning in particular, you need to be in a loop. You need to know what's happening, especially with this crazy development of AI, of Gen AI, and these new things that is happening every time. So we need to be in sync with the world.
Okay, awesome. That's a good moment to wrap up. So thank you for your time. I really enjoyed our conversation. So please give me a few minutes to wrap up my feedback, and I will present it to you. All right, let me give you my feedback. So generally you did really well. I really enjoyed our conversation, our mock interview. I personally really enjoyed your stories. The only one maybe general thing to improve is to include a little more actions in certain stories, not in all of them, but in some stories you can include more action. But let's go through the feedback. So I divided into 4 parts. The first one is delivering impact, second is commitment learning, third resolving conflict, and the last one is clear communication. And each part, each focus area is divided into a few things that are usually evaluated in big tech companies. And let's go one by one and discuss it. So the first thing in delivering impact, the thing that is evaluated is that you balance action and analysis. And I think you did that really well. So in your first story, you mentioned that before starting executing, you did research, you built an MVP version, showed it, so you made a presentation and you had a clear plan what to do next before taking action. Delivers high quality results. Yes, so you mentioned multiple successful high scale projects, especially in BP and blockchain.com, and also the one that was really huge that included department transition. And also the thing that I want to highlight that you should definitely use, or others who are watching this mock interview, that you mentioned influencing others without being a direct manager to deliver and achieve results. So I think that's a really difficult thing to do. And yeah, this is a rare quality. That was really good. Next, rebounds quickly from failures. So initially you gave me a story when you joined the team after the problem or the issue happened, and that was a good story in general, but not the perfect one to fit the criteria of like how do you rebound from failures. That's why I asked a question about another story, the story about the machine learning model for convenience stores, and that was a really good one. The only like small thing. So actually you covered everything, especially your actions, what you did urgently after the problem happened. I also really liked that you mentioned the quick fix and the long fix. That was really good. The only thing that can be improved is that you can mention that you communicated the problem to the stakeholders. So the stakeholder management, just like communicating that the problem happened and what is your progress is important. So obviously I assume that you did that. It's just like it's important to show in a behavioral interview to just show that you know how to work with stakeholders. Accountability for results. Yes, so you literally mentioned multiple times, you acknowledged mistakes. So you said, oh, we made a mistake. And that opens the door to actually fix it. And that was really good. Let's move on to the second part, which is commitment learning. And here you demonstrated self-awareness and interest in continued development. Yes, so you mentioned your ML courses, ML system design that you're doing supports the development of others. Yes, and here I want to highlight your junior developer mentorship story. That was really good because you mentioned specific way how you did that. You mentioned pair programming to fix a problem. And you also mentioned like motivating the person who actually initially wanted to give up, but you sort of like motivated them to continue, and that was really like good hero story to use for an interview. Seeks feedback from others. Yes. So honestly, this wasn't like covered much in your stories. Maybe like, yeah, I would suggest to maybe include a little more about how you actively seeked feedback from others. Energized by working towards challenging goals. Yes, absolutely. So I think that was not like in a particular question. You showed it throughout the interview that you care about the work and the outcome, not about just the paycheck. Resolving conflict. So you facilitated open communication to resolve the conflict. Yes. So you mentioned one-on-one meeting that you organized it, and adapts interpersonal style. Yes. Like the only like small thing that you can improve. It is nice to mention that you acknowledged and listened and understood other person's opinion before pushing them to take your side. Even though if you know that you're right, it's just like important to mention that, because in some cases it can make a difference. And also like another thing that you mentioned, like specifically said like my conflict, it's just like small thing. I would suggest using terminology like our conflict, because it just like highlights that you were thinking about the conflict more from your side, but it would be better to think about it through other person's lens as well. The thing that you did really well, that you seek common ground to build an agreement. So we mentioned that you discussed what to do next, and you persuaded and built an agreement with that person to move forward. Use conflicts as opportunities. Yes. And most importantly, uses data and facts to drive resolution. And that was shown in your answer, because you explained why it's impossible to build the system that product manager was suggesting to build, and you gave like a reasonable data points like your workload. Okay, so for clear communication here, I don't have many like comments, because you did really well. You clearly articulated your ideas and viewpoints, both to me and in your stories. So generally you communicate openly with team and collaborators. Yes. You keep others informed within appropriate timeframes. timeframes, and also you demonstrated active listening throughout the interview. So very well done. That's a great interview. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback.
See you. Bye.
Yeah, see you later. Take care.